Bismillah.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Once again, we like all of you to welcome on Islamic Center Moment broadcast of YouTube and moment.org, series of lectures of great book of great Maraje Imam Khomeini alayhi salam, Imam Khomeini Rizwanullah ta'ala alayh. The Adab Salat, the series of lecture will be presented on Islamic Center Moment every Friday, starting today. Inshallah, we're going to start our program with the recitation of Holy Quran and translation. I'd like to request Brother Sayyid Bakr Nasir Jafri to start with the recitation of Holy Quran. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والليل إذا يغشى والنهار إذا تجلى وما خلق الذكر والأنثى إن سعيكم لشتى فأما من أعطى واتقى وصدق بالحسنى فسنيسره لليسرى وأما من بخل واستغنى وكذب بالحسنى فسنيسره للعسرى وما يغني عنه ماله إذا تردى إن علينا الهدى وإن لنا الآخرة والأولى فأنذرتكم نارا تلظى لا يصلاها إلا الأشقى الذي كذب وتولى وسجنبها الأتقى الذي يؤتي ماله ويتزكى وما لأحد عنده من نعمة تجزى إلا ابتغاء وجه ربه الأعلى ولسوف يرضى صدق الله العلي العظيم. Translation. I swear by the night when it draws a veil, and the day when it shines in brightness, and the creating of the male and the female. Your striving is most surely directed to various ends. Then as for him who gives away and guards against evil, and accepts the best, we will facilitate for him the easy end. And as for him who is niggardly and considers himself free from need, and rejects the best, we will facilitate for him the difficult end. And his wealth will not avail him when he perishes. Surely ours is it to show the way. And most surely ours is the hereafter and the former. Therefore, I warn you of the fire that flames. None shall enter it but the most unhappy, who gives the lie and turns his back. And away from it shall be kept the one who guards most against evil. Who gives away his wealth, purifying himself, and no one has with him any boon for which he should be rewarded, except the seeking of the pleasure of his Lord, the Most High. and he shall soon be well pleased. By Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma
Allahumma salli ala
Muhammad wa
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Jazakallah, Sayyid Bakr Nasir Jafri. Such a beautiful recitation of Holy Quran. Now, once again, I like to welcome you all listener around the world who are listening to this series of seminar of Adab Salat, disciplines of the prayer, in the book of late Imam Khomeini, Adab Salat. Also, before I invite our guest speaker, just like to request all of you listeners, this past week is very tragical on the Shia community since we lost such a great soul and great personality on the Shia Ummah, Ayatollah Misbah Yazdi, and also the Shuhada of Quetta, include the Shuhada of January attack, Qasim Soleimani and his circle, and also all the Shuhada of Islam. Please recite the Surah Fatiha with the salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
wa ali Muhammad. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Brothers and sisters, we like to welcome our own Maulana Hujjatul Islam Sheikh Hayder Shirazi. The people know him like one of us in Dallas community, but after long time seeing his Nurani face on the Moment website and broadcast, we like to welcome him for the series of lecture on Adab Salat, disciplines of the prayer, in the book of Marhum Imam Khomeini. We like to welcome him, and also we like to thank him to accepting our invitation for these series of lectures on Adab Salat. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Maulana Hayder Shirazi. Please welcome him with the loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Bismillah.
السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توغى وتمتعه فيها طويلا.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجهم.
Thank you all for giving this opportunity to serve, and we ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to make this majlis, to make these series, these sessions, a series of nur and ma'rifah that would remain for us in our graves, in our barzakh, and will be a means of our shafa'at in the mahshar, insha'Allah. These days, we have many sad occasions. Among them, it's the sad demise, which was last Friday, of our Ustad, Marhum Allama Ayatollah Misbah Yazdi, who educated us in falsafa, in mantiq, in irfan, in akhlaq for years and years. May Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala elevate his soul, grant him the highest ranks in his forgiveness and mercy. We learnt a lot from him. In one of his trips that he had to the UK, and I was driving the car, he was sitting next to me. We were driving to Isle of Wight. We were to reach our destination about 30 minutes, 40 minutes after Maghrib. It was time for namaz, for salats. He told me to stop the car somewhere. Well, I couldn't say that we are going to reach there in the next 30 minutes. He says, stop the car somewhere. We have to say our prayers. On the motorways, on the highways, no hard shoulder. On hard shoulders, you cannot stop. But then it so happened that we found a spot and we could stop there and we offered our prayers at that time of Fadila on that motorway and amidst that wilderness. Importance to Salat, that was a big lesson that he taught us. May Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala grant him the highest of ranks in his contentment and Ridwanullahi Ta'ala alayh. Importance to Salat, importance to worship, importance to the obedience of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala in real living, in the actions and practical life. That what Quran mentions in Surah Maryam, the reason why we find that nations they decline, the reason why people they have a head-on collision in their lives. Quran says in Surah Maryam, فَخَلَفَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ خَلْفٌ أَضَاعُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ فَسَوْفَ يَلْقَوْنَ غَيًّا. That is, they were succeeded by an evil generation. Why were they evil? What was the reason for their being evil? Quran says the reason for their being evil generation is, first of all, adha'us salat, they neglected prayers. Wattaba'us shahawat, they followed their shahawat and their desires. As a result of which, they encountered that ghay, that deviation, that perversity. So we find that what Quran states in this ayah, the reason for losing that identity, or the reason for having a head-on collision, or the reason for having a bad generation is putting prayers aside, neglecting prayers, disregarding prayers, and also following those shahawat. So salat, it's that greatest of the wajibat or the commands of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, to which the most and the maximum investment has to be done, maximum importance has to be given. And when we see the riwayat from Ma'asumeen alayhim salam, amazing teachings we have there. For example, in a quote from Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, he says that Inna Allah la yadfa'u biman yusalli min shi'atina amman la yusalli min shi'atina walau ajma'u ala tarki salat la halaku. Imam in this beautiful quote says that Allah defends and protects our Shias, those who offer their prayers. Those who don't offer their prayers, they are protected by those who offer their prayers. بِمَنْ يُسَلِّي مِنْ شِيعَتِنَا عَمَّنْ لَا يُسَلِّي. As a result of these mu'mineen who give importance to prayers, who offer their prayers, Allah defends them. Allah puts away all the balas. Allah puts away all the tests and trials from those amman la yusalli min shi'atina. And then he says that if all of them had stopped praying, that tarkus salat, or they all neglected prayer collectively, la halaku, all of them would have been devastated, would have been ruined. The reason why people are safe today, it is because of those people who are offering prayers. Prayers of a few protect the others. And then says, if they all unanimously, collectively had neglected prayers, la halaku. So prayers, they are important. And to that we have also to emphasize and invest in these prayers that we offer. In a hadith from our sixth Imam, he says that from all the prayers that you offer throughout your life, if you lived for 100 years, then for 85 years you are mukallaf. You have to offer prayers for 85 years. Imam says that from those 85 years of prayers that you have to offer, that is wajib on you, if only one of the prayers or two of the prayers were accepted, were kamil, were complete, as a result of those one or two prayers that you have offered correctly, all of your faulty prayers in those 85 years will be corrected, will be refurbished and accepted by Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So prayers that are good, prayers that are kamil and correct, can rectify and correct all those prayers that are faulty. Now, first of all, the azamat, the greatness of prayer is being understood over here. And at the same time, shows that it's a big challenge that from 100 years of life and living, if one prayer or two prayers were offered correctly, they would correct all the wrong prayers that we have done, we have offered in our lives. Now, when we further see the wasaya of Ma'sumin in the same, in the wasiyat that we have from Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam to his companion Abdullah bin Jundab, Imam says to him that the Almighty Allah has revealed in one of those ahadith al-Qudsiyya, he such states that إِنَّمَا أَقْبَلُ الصَّلَاةِ مِمَّنْ يَتَوَاضَعَ لِعَظَمَتِي. Allah accepts prayers from him who submits and who is humbled before the greatness, before my greatness, that is before the greatness of Allah. وَيَكُفُّ نَفْسَهُ عَنِ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنْ أَجَلِي. He puts away all of those shahawat and all of those desires that he has, lusts and temptations for the sake of God. And then he passes his day remembering me, and then he remains hungry or he fasts during the day, and then he lives a life of someone who is ari, who is has no desire to this dunya. Says someone who is like that, Allah would make him yushriqu nuruhu mithla shams. Allah will make him enlighten and shine just like the sun shines. That someone who has submitted with humbleness and tawadu before Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, Allah will make him shine like the sun. And then says, أَجْعَلُ لَهُ فِي الظُّلْمَةِ نُورًا. Whenever you see that there is darkness, I will make his presence enlighten and shine that darkness. وَفِي الْجَهَالَةِ حِلْمًا أَكْلَأُهُ بِعِزَّتِي وَأَسْتَحْفِظُهُ مَلَائِكَتِي. Says that I will clothe him with my hilm, with my tolerance, with my patience, and my angels, they will protect him. That is, as a result of that worship, that servitude that a person has before Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And then the Almighty says, وَيَسْأَلْنِي فَأَعْطِيهِ. Whatever he asks me, I will give him. فَمَثَلُ ذَلِكَ الْعَبْدَ عِنْدِي كَمَثَلِ جَنَّاتِ الْفِرْدَوْسِ لَا يَسْبِقْ أَثْمَارُهَا وَلَا تَتَغَيَّرْ عَنْ حَالِهَا. Says the example of that person who has humbled and who has sought the existence of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and has stood in worship and servitude of the Almighty. Says such a person, if you want to understand and know what his rank is, says he is like the Jannatul Firdaus. From among the heavens that Allah has created, the highest, the greatest, and the best of them is Jannatul Firdaus. That is the place where the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, they dwell there. Says that Jannatul Firdaus, it cannot be compared to any other of the Jannat and heavens that Allah has created. Says this person who worships, who humbles himself, who stands before the Almighty Allah in salat, in prayers, says he is like that Jannatul Firdaus, and the fruit and all those blessings that are there in Jannatul Firdaus, they cannot be compared and measured with anyone else, anything else. So Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has given such a high rank to someone who is bonded with prayers, with salat. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He defends and looks after those who don't often offer their prayers as a result of the prayers of those who offer. So those who offer prayers, they protect, they are the security of those who don't. And if everyone puts away the salat, everyone will be ruined. Now, salat is important, and all of these riwayat and ayat that we have regarding the importance of salat, if we look into it, for example, one of the ashab of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam is Hamad bin Isa. Hamad bin Isa, if you were to know him in rank, in Adamat, like one of the Maraji at-Taqlid that we have today, he is of such a great rank. Someone who is in his 60s or early 70s and is one of the companions, one of the students of the Imam alayhi salam, a man of greatness. Imam says to Hamad bin Isa that, come on, stand up, offer a 2 rakat prayer. I want to see how you offer your prayers. Hamad bin Isa, this great man, he stood, he offered the prayers. And when he completed his prayers, Imam says that, Ya Hamad, tuhsinu an tusalli. Imam says to him, Hamad, uh, is this how you pray? Is this how you offer your prayers? Then he says that, well, in this hadith, Imam doesn't point at what was the flaw and the fault in his prayers. And then he says, with this old age of yours, with all this beard that has gone white, and you are in your 60s, your early 70s, and is this how you pray? Now, Hamad bin Isa says, the moment Imam said that to me, فَأَصَابَنِي فِي نَفْسِي الذُّلْ, I felt so belittled in myself that I have reached this age of 60 and my prayers, they are faulty. And then Imam says to Hamad bin Isa, I will offer a 2 rakat prayer. You look at me. And then Hamad bin Isa says that now this hadith is being reported from him. He says that I stood there and I saw the Imam offer his prayers. فقام أبو عبد الله عليه السلام مستقبل القبلة منتصبا. I saw that Abu Abdullah, that is Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he stood facing the Qibla. فأرسل يديه جميعا على فخذيه. He placed his 2 hands on his thighs. قد ضم أصابعه. So his fingers also, they were closed like that, not open, they were closed. And Imam had placed his hands with closed fingers on his thighs. وقرب بين قدميه. And then also he brought his feet close together. Not stuck together, close together. حتى كان بينهما قدر 3 أصابع. I saw that between the 2 feet there was a distance of about 3 fingers between the 2 Mubarak feet of the Imam. واستقبل بأصابع رجليه جميعا القبلة لم يحرفهما عن القبلة. Hamad bin Isa says, I saw his feet. Both of his feet were facing the Qibla. Neither of the feet were tilted away from the Qibla. Straight feet were facing the Qibla. Three fingers of distance between the 2 feet. And then he says, وَقَالَ بِخُشُوعٍ اللَّهُ أَكْبَرُ. And then with all khushu means fear. Now we'll come to these terms, khushu and khudu, which both of them mean fear. One means fear, that is the look, the shell of the prayer, how you offer it, and one is the inner fear, that is from within the fear that you have, that is khushu. Khudu, it's that fear which is the shell of the prayer. How do you offer the prayer with all that fear and fright of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala? Then he says, ثم قرأ الحمد بترتيل. Imam recited Surah Al-Hamd in tartil, and then he recited Surah قل هو الله أحد. ثم صبر هنيئة بقدر ما يتنفس وهو قائم. Once he completed the recitation of Surah Al-Hamd and then the Surah Al-Ikhlas, he paused for a while, and then وهو قائم, he was just still standing. ثم رفع يديه حيال وجهه. He raised his two hands all the way until his face. وقال الله أكبر وهو قائم. And he said Allahu Akbar, he's still standing. And then he bows down to ruku. ثم ركع وملأ كفيه من ركبتيه منفرجات. He placed his two hands with the fingers apart on his two knees. ورد ركبتيه إلى خلفه حتى استوى ظهره. He pushed his knees back, and then his back was flat at a vertical angle, at a right angle, and then says, it was such that if you poured some water or some oil on the back of the Imam, it wouldn't move apart. It would stay where it is. And then says, وَمَدَّ عُنُقَهُ وَغَمَّضَ عَيْنَيْهِ. Imam, he stretched his neck towards the front, closed his eyes. ثُمَّ سَبَّحَ ثَلَاثًا بِتَرْتِيلٍ. He recited tasbih 3 times, that is, Subhana Rabbiyal Azimi wa bihamdih. And once he had done with the recitation of the zikr in ruku, Imam, he stood. فَلَمَّا اسْتَمْكَنَ مِنَ الْقِيَامِ قَالَ سَمِعَ اللَّهُ لِمَنْ حَمِدَهُ. Says he stood, and then he said سَمِعَ اللَّهُ لِمَنْ حَمِدَهُ. ثُمَّ كَبَّرَ وَهُوَ قَائِمٌ. He said Allahu Akbar again, and he is still standing. وَرَفَعَ يَدَيْهِ حِيَالَ وَجْهِهِ. Again, his hands came all the way towards his face, adjacent to his face. Then he says, ثُمَّ سَجَدَ وَبَسَطَ كَفَّيْهِ مَضْمُومَتَيْ الْأَصَابِعِ بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ وَرُكْبَتَيْهِ. Then Imam bowed down into sajda. His two palms, fingers were in the ruku, the fingers were apart, but now in sajda, the fingers, they are closed, and he is in the state of sajda. He places his two Mubarak hands adjacent to his feet and in sajda. And then he says he recited Subhana Rabbiyal A'la wa bihamdih 3 times. وَلَمْ يَضَعْ شَيْئًا مِنْ جَسَدِهِ عَلَى شَيْءٍ مِنْهِ. The body, when he was in the state of sajda, was tranquil and relaxed. And then he says that was sajda rukbatayhi wa anamila. Then he says that this sajda that Imam had performed, 8 parts of his body touched the ground. What are those 8 parts? Says the forehead, the nose, the 2 palms, the 2 knees, and the 2 toes. That what is wajib, it's 7 masajid, that is the forehead, the palms, the knees, and the toes. But then Imam had his nose also touch the ground in sajda, and that is that mustahab. Says that what is wajib is 7, but then Imam also had touched the nose, and that is mustahab. ثم رفع رأسه من السجود. He rose from the sujud. فَلَمَّا اسْتَوَى جَالِسًا قَالَ اللَّهُ أَكْبَرُ. Then when he had settled down, rising from sajda, he sat up, and then he said Allahu Akbar. And then when Imam sat after his sajda, says Imam sat on his left thigh. such that وقد وضع ظاهر قدمه الأيمن على بطن قدمه الأيسر. That is, the top of the right foot was under the bottom of the left foot. So Imam was sitting on his left thigh, and the right foot, the upper side of the right foot was under the inner side of the lower side of the left foot. Now, inshallah, when we come into details, why is it like that? So right is always is determined or mentioned as haq. So here when Imam sits and places his right foot on the left or the right thigh on the left thigh, means this right which is haq has always to be on top. Haq always prevails wherever it is. So if we take the right hand as the haq and the left, so that has to be on top. Left foot also is haq, so it has to be on top. Inshallah, when we come into details of why and how these a'mal they are observed, we will talk about that. ثم كبر وهو جالس وسجد السجدة الثانية. He then performed the second sajda وقال كما قال في الأولى, just like in the first sajda. Imam said سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده 3 times. The second rak'at also was offered in the same way as he offered the first rak'at. And when Imam completed his prayers, he said the tashahhud and the salam was recited. And Imam after the prayers says to Hammad bin Isa, Ya Hammad, hakada salli. You also offer your prayers just like me. Just like this, you offer your prayers. So, prayers have to be corrected. It's an ongoing process. It isn't as such that everyone has reached that destination and the prayers are all correct. No. Now, this great personality in his late 60s, early 70s, and one of those people of high caliber, when Imam can stop him and say to him that his prayers need to be fixed and corrected, then we know that what kind of a prayers we are offering. Definitely it needs correction, definitely it needs improvement. And it is not an aib, it is not a flaw that we feel shy and ashamed in getting our prayers fixed. Whoever you see around you, the ulama that you have, on and off, get your prayers checked, get your aqa'id checked. And that is something we see in the riwayah, in the seerah of Ma'asumin alayhim salam, that people they used to come there and have their aqa'id checked, have their prayers checked. Now, returning to our talk, and that is the Adab Salat. Imam Khomeini Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayh, in his book, he starts with this dua that we have in Munajat Sha'baniyya, saying, Ilahi habli kamal al-inqita'i ilayk. Kamal al-inqita' means a complete separation. Separation means that from this dunya that we are living in, we have to detach. We have to separate in order to get connected to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. It is not possible for someone to get connected to God and at the same time be connected to this dunya. It's either the one. Either we choose here or we choose Him. In all of these worships that we say, qurbatan ilallah, to seek the nearness of Allah. So to seek the nearness of Allah, so we have to seek distance from everything else. So all these things that are so close and so near to us, we need to aloof ourselves from them first, as a result of which we will get closer to Allah. If we are bonded and connected and hooked to everything else, then getting connected to Allah, Tabarak wa Ta'ala, that will not be possible. Or even if we do connect, it's going to be a very weak connection. To have a strong connection, we need to get connected stronger. So here says, Ilahi habli kamal al-inqita'i ilayk, that Allah grant me a complete separation towards you. وَأَنِرْ أَبْصَارَ قُلُوبِنَا بِضِيَاءِ نَظَرِهَا إِلَيْكَ. And Allah, you enlighten the eyes of my heart, of our hearts, with the light of their looking at you. And then says, حتى تخرق أبصار القلوب حجب النور. As a result of this, the Absarul Qulub means the eyes of the heart. They penetrate the veils of light, of hujub of nur, فَتَّصِلَ إِلَى مَعْدِنِ الْعَظَمَةِ. And then they reach the source of all that greatness and the adama, and that is the Allah, existence of Allah, tabaraka wa ta'ala. So with that sight, that is that inner sight, we can get to those higher ranks and see those realities and facts. But for that, we need to open up our eyes that are within ourselves. وَتَصِيرَ أَرْوَاحُنَا مُعَلَّقَةً بِعِزِّ قُدْسِكَ. So first of all, what we have to do is this prayer that we offer, the surat or the face or the shell of this prayer, it has to be understood. The etiquettes, the adab of this observing this prayer have to be observed. Now, the zahiri adab or etiquettes, we all observe them, like how it has to be offered, takbiratul ihram, and then recitation of the surahs, and then bowing down into ruku, and then sajdas, and then tashahud and salam. That is, that zahir or the face or the shell of that prayer, we all do that nicely. What we have to work on, it is that interior of that salat, the batin of the prayers. Now, when we see the ayat of Quran, one of them states that يَوْمَ تَجِدُ كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا عَمِلَتْ مِنْ خَيْرٍ مُحْضَرًا وَمَا عَمِلَتْ مِنْ سُوءٍ تَوَدُّ لَوْ أَنَّ بَيْنَهَا وَبَيْنَهُ أَمَدًا بَعِيدًا. On the day when every soul shall find that the actions that they have done, they are all evident and they are before them. The good that I have done will be before me in a form. The bad that I have done, it will take a form and it will be before me. فَوَجَدُوا مَا عَمِلُوا حَاضِرًا. In another ayah says that whatever they have done, they would see that it is present before them. So everything is present, it has a form. So these two ayat, when you look into them, we find that our actions, they will materialize, they will have a form. We will see that everything is before us. Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, in another quote, he says that Man salla salat al-mafrudat fi awwal waqtiha. One who offers his prayers, the wajib prayers, at the time of, on the hour, exactly at the time of fadila. أو أقام حدودها, that is, he honored the parameters or the hudud, and then he respected and then offered his prayers dot on time. Imam says, رفعها الملك إلى السماء بيضاء نقية. An angel takes this prayer and ascends to the skies so bright, so pure. And then it is said, the angels, they say, حفظك الله كما حفظتني. And the prayer says that حفظك الله, may Allah protect you, may Allah save you, just like you protected me, saved me. And then an angel escorts this prayer and escorts this person who has offered the prayers because of that beautiful prayer that he has offered and created. وَمَنْ صَلَّاهَا بَعْدَ وَقْتِهَا. Someone who offers his prayers but not on time, has delayed it and offers them at a later time. And the reason why he offered his prayers late, for no reason. Now, sometimes there is a reason, whatever that is, but now for no reason he did not offer his prayers not on time. من غير علة, says that رفعها الملك سوداء مظلمة. An angel, dark, takes it to the skies that are so dark. وهي تهتف به ضيعتني ضيعك الله كما ضيعتني. And he is addressed that may Allah ruin you, just like you ruined me. That is, just like you ruined this prayer. It had to be offered dot on time, on the hour, at the time of Fadila. You ruined it, you destroyed it. The angel says, the prayer says that may Allah destroy you, just like you destroyed me. وَلَا رَعَاكَ اللَّهُ كَمْ لَمْ تَرَعْنِي. May Allah not care for you, just like you did not care for me. So prayers, they are important. So prayers, they have a form. That what we do, it takes an action, it takes a form, and it will be present before us, the good and the bad. The ayah says that وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانِ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. That you would see that the next abode, that akhirah, most surely it is the true life. Lahiya hayawan means that entire living in the akhirah, it is animated, it is living, it is lively, it is alive. لو كانوا يعلمون, if you knew. Now, for every worship, there is an adab, there is an etiquette. And among those initial etiquettes that are required, it is ikhlas, sincerity. Now, all of this is a lesson to myself first, and to you, brothers and sisters, a reminding. So, not observing these adab, not observing these etiquettes, they become a barrier, a hijab between us, and then an eternal regret would remain for us that an opportunity was given to us. We could have offered our prayers right at the right time and correctly. We would have invested in our prayers, and then it would be a regret if we don't fix it now. And now it's sad to say, especially in these Hajj and Umrah trips that we used to accompany and go, it's really a shame that people, after such a long time and offering prayers, the prayers, they are faulty. Truly, they are faulty. Recitation is horrible. The entire prayer and salat, the wuzu, it's all sad, a sad situation. We need to work on it, and it's just 20 sentences. This entire salat is not more than 20 sentences. And if someone cannot pronounce or recite these 20 sentences correctly in a lifetime, that is bad. So it's going to be a means of regret. وَأَن تَقُولَ نَفْسٌ يَا حَسْرَةَ عَلَى مَا فَرَّطْتُ فِي جَنْبِ اللَّهِ. And the soul, it would say that, woe be upon me, what I fell short of my duty towards Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. With reference to Salat, all these riwayat that we have, among them says, you've heard it a lot, in قُبِلَتْ قُبِلَ مَا سِوَاهَا. That is, if this Salat is accepted, everything else will be accepted. And if, God forbid, if this Salat is denied and rebuked and rejected, everything else, whatever we have done, will be thrown onto our faces. So etiquettes and adab in every worship, they have to be observed. And in this Salat also, it's the same. The adab, they have the adab.
Maulana, you muted yourself.
Yeah. Worship means etiquettes of adab, they have to be observed. Worship means tawajjuh, to ponder, to pay attention to the Creator. And that is the first step that every one of us is striving on this path. Among those initial levels that we have in worship is that this selfishness that we have, this self-want that we have, this inniyat that we have within us, it needs to be cleared, it needs to be removed. And then the more of this selfishness and my self-want is removed from me, the more closer I would get to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. The stronger it will be, this qurb of mine to Allah Jalla wa Ala. So, Now, when we see the riwayat of Ma'sumin alayhim salam, sometimes we have got so many different barriers that become a hindrance between us and Allah. Maybe the prayer itself, it may become a barrier. Many a times the ilm, the knowledge that we have, that becomes a barrier. Ilm has to be there so that we get closer to Allah, we get nearer to Him, and we distance from ourselves. If ilm is there is being used as a tool to reduce this distance between us and God, it's good. But then if that ilm itself is becoming a barrier and is distancing us from God, then says al-ilmu huwa al-hijab al-akbar. That ilm becomes the greatest barrier, the greatest hijab between us and Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. So ilm, we use it to strengthen the bond and reduce the distance between Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. So now that we know the importance and the azamat of prayer, then we'll see what khushu means. Khushu means fear. That is, I'm submitting before Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and that has to be with fear, with fright. Now, this can be achieved by perceiving the greatness of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, His Jamal, His Jalal, by trying to understand, because we cannot perceive the greatness of Allah. Impossible. We can try to understand and perceive the greatness of His creation, that how magnificent He has created the skies, how beautiful the seas are. The sky, such massive, He has created with no columns, with no pillars. That is the greatness of His creation. So the greatness of His creation is such, then how would the Creator be who has created this magnificent creation? So this way we can get to that fear, the khudu, and being humbled in this grand creation of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. It is mustahab that we offer our prayers in deserts, in meadows, in large patches of lands, so that when we stand in that desert, in that meadow, in that land, and we see ourselves and how small we are, how minute we are in that existence of God, then that fear will be enhanced and activated in us. Among the the ayat of Quran that talk about this khushu and this khuzu, that is fear, says قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, successful, prosperous are the believers. Who are they? In Surah Al-Mu'minun, this is the second ayah, says الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. They are those who are humble in their prayers. That is, that tawadu is there, that fear is there, that khushu is there before Allah Ta'ala, as a result of which Allah says, prosperous are the believers. Who are the believers? The first quality that they carry is this, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. So possessing knowledge, only knowledge, will do no good. If that knowledge, if that ilm helps us come towards the fear and getting to the fear of Allah Ta'ala, then that knowledge also, it will be worthy. So Shaitan also had that knowledge, all that knowledge he had. But then even Shaitan, he believed in that mabda, in the existence of God. Shaitan believed in the akhirah. In that ayah where he says, قَالَ أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْهُ, when he said that I am better than Adam, خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَار, that God, you created me from fire. So Iblis, he admits, he acknowledges that the creator is Allah. And then he says, خَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِين, you created Adam with clay, with dirt. And then he says, قَالَ أَنظِرْنِي إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ, that is, give me respite until the day, yub'asun means the day of judgment, until the day everyone else will be raised. So Iblis believes in the day of judgment, believes in the creator, that he has created him, believes in the resurrection and the day of judgment, that will give me respite until the day of judgment, so believes in that. That what he doesn't believe in is that khushu doesn't exist in him, that humbleness doesn't exist in Iblis. Pride is there. So pride, and that knowledge also he has. He is that the most knowledgeable person also, who has seen all those zones and the skies, the highest levels of it. He knows the secrets in this creation. So he has all that talent, all that knowledge. But then all that knowledge, instead of helping him come closer to God, distanced him from God. So that ilm becomes a barrier, a hijabul akbar, between him and the existence of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So we have to work in getting this khushu and this fright and fear in us. And when we look into the ayat of Quran, another ayat says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. That is, those who fear Allah are the ones who have this ilm, are the ulama, are the scholars. So because of that ilm they have, they fear. So if that ilm becomes a tool in reducing the distance between us and Allah wa ta'ala, it is good. If that ilm becomes a tool to distance us from God, that ilm will be a barrier. Now, we'll come to this term also, salik. Salik means someone who is moving towards Allah wa ta'ala, and this, this, this journey will be called suluk. Suluk means we are on this journey towards Allah. So the passenger himself will be called a salik. Suluk, it's that way that we have ahead. So in this suluk, that salik needs to work and create this status in him as much as it is possible. It is difficult, and that is work on this khushu. And this status cannot be achieved with laziness. We have to be fresh, we have to be motivated, we have to have that enthusiasm to offer prayers, that love and joy and mahabbat towards prayers has to be there. And then we have to work on it with itminan, with tranquility. And slowly we can get closer to this gem, this prayer that Allah has created, has given as a gift to us, the human beings. That's the best of Allah's bestowals upon mankind. Now, in worship, the heart has to be settled, has to be peaceful. When we see these books, there you say tuma'nina. Tuma'nina means the heart has to be relaxed. It has to be at rest when you stand in worship. So for that, how do you get to that point? Before the time of prayer comes, you get ready, be in wuzu, have your prayer mat spread out, and greet the prayers by reciting a little bit of Quran or some of the, or maybe the ziyarat of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. So you are waiting, getting ready, warming up, getting ready to welcome and to greet Salat. So by ziyarat or by the ayat of Quran, best would be the ayat of Quran, as that is what Quran says. You recite a few ayat, and by that time it is time for adhan. And the moment the adhan is said, quickly you also stand, say the adhan, and then start your prayers without any delay. That is khushu, that is itmi'nan, that is tranquility, that a person he gets to get to, and that is by observing and honoring the timings of that prayer. Now, in a hadith says that a group of mu'mineen, they will be made to enter the hell. And at seeing Malik, the gatekeeper of the hell, they will forget even the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the reason for that happening is that now if we have these recitals or these azkar that we recite or these prayers that we offer, if it is just a prayer which we just want to tick and we have done our duty, if it's that for that reason only, then we will find that even those azkar, like these salawats that are recited, we remember the Prophet, if it's only just a mere recital of the tongue. Says you will forget when we see the horror of the day of judgment. So the reason why we forget it's because it was just a mere recital that the tongue had uttered. But if we had faith in the Prophet, if we had faith in the prayers, if we understood those prayers, if we knew those azkar and those recitals, then no matter what happens, it will be with me, it will be in the system, and it will never go away from me. So we have to give importance to Salat and to this itmi'nan, this tranquility when it comes when we are starting, before we start our prayers. And someone who is connected to Allah wa ta'ala, and that is wholly and solely by these azkar, by the prayers, the Almighty says that in Hadith al-Qudsi, كنت سمعه الذي يسمع به. Then you would see that I will be the ears, الذي يسمع به, that he hears from. Those ears are not his, my ears. بصره الذي يبصر به, the eyes that he has, says that those eyes are my eyes. Whatever he sees with my eyes then. The hands that he has, it's not his anymore. Those hands that are serving are the hands of God. So someone who gets connected with ma'rifah by prayer, by azkar to Allah wa ta'ala, he is not himself, but he is a reflection of Allah, where the Almighty says, His ears are my ears, His sight is my sight, His hands are my hands, and whatever movement He has, whatever services He is providing, it's all mine. Now, in this Salat, we find that there is so much of beauty that is hidden in this Salat. We find that the entire Salat, it's divine, meaning that Allah, He has revealed, He has sent it. The ruku that you perform, the sajdas that you perform, the recitation of Quran in the first two rak'at, that is the word of Allah. So this entire salat, it is divine, it is muqaddas. And in another hadith, Imam says that, Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, he says that man qara al-Quran wa huwa shabun mu'min ikhtalata al-Quran bilahmihi wa damih. Someone who recites Quran and he is a young mu'min, young believer, says this Quran becomes part and parcel of his existence, that is his flesh and his blood is Quran. And then he says that on the day of judgment, جَعَلَهُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ مَعَ السَّفَرَةِ الْكِرَامِ الْبَرَرَةِ. On the day of judgment, Allah will raise him with the ambassadors, the elite, the exalted, the generous, the kiram al-barara, with the angels. وَكَانَ الْقُرْآنُ حَجِيزًا عَنْهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Says this Quran that you will recite. Now in Salat we have recitation of Quran as well. We recite the two surahs. And someone who does it wholly, solely, with love, with enthusiasm, with ma'rifah, with that knowledge that he has, says he will be raised with the angels on the day of judgment, and Quran will be a protection, a cover for him. يقول يا رب إن كل عامل قد أصاب أجر عمله. Quran will say to Allah on the day of judgment that God, all these actions that everyone has done, for every action they have been paid, they have been rewarded. But those who were connected with me, that is with Quran, you haven't rewarded them. Then he says, the Almighty Allah, He dresses or clothes those people who were bonded with Quran with two beautiful heavenly clothing. And then Allah addresses Quran and says that, are you happy with what I gave them? Those who were connected to you in this dunya. Quran says, I was hoping for more. So Allah dressed them in the best of clothing of the heaven, made them enter the heaven, and then asks the Quran, are you happy with what was bestowed and given to them? Quran says, I was hoping for more. قد كنت أرغب له فيما هو أفضل من هذا. Now what Allah does, فيعطى الأمن بيمينه, Allah gives him security and peace from the right, والخلد بيسار, in his right hand, and in his left hand gives him an eternal permit to abide there, to reside in the heaven. ثم يدخل الجنة, and Allah makes him enter the heaven. فيقال له, and this person is said, that is, who was connected, bonded with Quran, اقرأ واسعد, recite and ascend. All that Quran that you were bonded with, that you had recited and you were familiarized with in dunya, Allah says, recite from that Quran as much as you want and ascend in this heaven higher and higher as much as you want. Iqra was'ad darajatan. Every time you recite a daraja, you ascend. Now the daraja also that is mentioned in riwayat, every daraja, it's 10 times the distance between the earth and the skies. Says 10 times of that is increased in rank, in azamat, in ascension by this person who recites and ascends and gets higher ranks in the heaven. ثم يقال له هل بلغنا وأرضيناك فيقول نعم. Then Allah addresses Quran and says, are you happy now? Quran says, yes, happy now. So وَمَنْ قَرَأَهُ كَثِيرًا وَتَعَاهَدَهُ. So Quran importance has to be given to it, and in this salat that we offer, there is Quran in it, and this the recitation of the surahs, that is Surah Al-Hamd and the second surah, we should work on it and recite it correctly, properly, and try to understand the meanings of these surahs. That way a better service we can perform, insha'Allah. May Allah wa ta'ala help us understand these glorious teachings of the Ma'sumin alayhim salam and count us all among the Musallin. One of the best of du'as that can be given, now for example, on the day of Ashura, when Abu Sumama was hit and was falling and was in his last moments of his life, the Imam says to the Imam that our fate, Ya Aba Abdullah, was I loyal to you, Ya Aba Abdullah? Imam in reply says, Naam wa anta amami fil jannah, yes, and you will be before me in the heaven, and says, Ja'alaka Allah min al musallin, that Allah count you and list you among those who are the musallin, who offer and who establish and those who keep up prayer. So being a musalli and being raised among the musallin is an honor, is a rank. It's a daraja that Allah gives to only those who He wants. May Allah wa ta'ala count us all among the musallin, our children, our descendants, generations to come. Allah bond them with this salat, bond them with Quran, and Allah wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq that we invest more in our prayers, correct our prayers, and all those who are ill and ailing, Allah grant them shifa. All those who have departed, Allah, this moment they all be the guest of Hazrat Fatima, salamullahi alayha. Between us, Quran and Ahlul Bayt, never come across a moment of separation. Hasten in the return of our Imam, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. Islam and Muslimin, Allah grant them honor, izzat, height and might. And to kufr, shirk and nifaq, Allah remove them from the surface of this earth. وعجل في فرج مولانا صاحب الزمان.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Thank you so much, Maulana Hayder Shirazi. Just to remind all the listeners, next week program will be start with the first 10 minutes of the Q&A. Please post your questions on the YouTube chat room so Maulana can read it and answer you, inshallah. And also the end of this series of the seminar, one program will be arranged for the Q&A and correction. Whoever participate in it, I encourage all the youth to participate in it. And then whoever Maulana choose first, second, third will be have a prize from Islamic Center of Moment to give away to those participants, especially youth brothers and sisters who are attending this seminar. Please make sure you are paying attention to all the discussion going around this series of the seminars, and please post your questions next week before like 7 o'clock. We're going to start 7:05. If you're posting your questions, Maulana can answer that. Once again, thank you so much of the Islamic Center, behalf of Islamic Center of Moment. Maulana, we like to thank you for your time, and we appreciate your powerful message on the Adab Salat. Inshallah, hope to see you all next week on that same channel. Thank you, Agha. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you, Altamasa Dua. Thank you.
Mata Agha. Iman.